We've all seen it in a classroom. One student picks up a new language as if they've spoken it their whole life, while another struggles with the basics but can solve a complex physics problem in seconds. It's easy to look at that and assume some people are simply born with a gift that others lack. This page features a definition from psychologist Arthur Traxler. He describes aptitude as a present condition that acts as a signal for your potentialities for the future. Essentially, we can measure the skills you have right now to get a reliable preview of what you could achieve later. Consider a runner born with high lung capacity, a physical baseline they didn't work for. That capacity only becomes a career through specific training. Aptitude measures how these inborn traits combine with deliberate practice. This means aptitude is a dynamic set of resources. By testing these different areas, we can identify which specific parts of your mental inventory are already strong and which ones have the most room to grow. To understand this, we look at psychologist Walter Bingham's 3 assumptions. First, everyone has different potential. Second, your strengths aren't balanced. You might excel in logic, but not linguistics. Finally, these differences stay stable over time, meaning areas where you naturally excel predict your long-term success. One way we measure these stable traits is through syllogisms. These test your logical reasoning by seeing if a conclusion follows a specific set of rules, regardless of whether the statements seem odd. For example, all birds lay eggs. A swan is a bird, therefore swans lay eggs. Because the conclusion follows the path set by the first 2 statements, your brain identifies as a valid logical sequence. Other tests look at your fluency with ideas. In a verbal analogy test, you have to find the relationship between 2 concepts, like realizing that if a leaf belongs to a tree, then a wheel belongs to a car. We also look at underlying numerical patterns. A number sequence test isn't just about math. It measures how quickly your brain can spot the underlying rule governing a series of data points. Take the sequence 2, 4, 8, 16. If you recognized that every number is simply being doubled, you've identified the pattern that leads to the next number, 32. If the math pattern was easy, but the logic puzzle felt slow, it doesn't mean you aren't smart. It simply reveals which specific cognitive tracks your brain is currently most comfortable using. Some capacities are more physical. Spatial reasoning tests measure your ability to look at a 2D image and mentally rotate it in 3D space. Architects and engineers rely on this constantly. They have to visualize how different parts of a building or a machine will fit together long before a single piece is actually manufactured. In data-heavy roles, we use interpretation tests. These measure how effectively you can look at a complex chart and extract the one piece of information that actually matters for a business decision. There is also a social dimension. A situational judgment test might ask how you would handle a coworker who is consistently late. Your answer shows a recruiter how you would realistically navigate the friction of a real workplace. This section describes the Watson-Glaser test, which is often used for high-level management. It focuses on whether a person can set aside their personal opinions to make objective decisions based strictly on evidence. As we see in this photo of students from decades ago, we have been using these methods for a long time. The goal has always been to find the specific environment where a person's natural leanings will help them thrive. Ultimately, professional success isn't about being perfect at every single one of these tests. It's about how your unique mix of logical, verbal, and social abilities work together in the real world. By identifying your strengths through these tests, as seen in this interview setting, we can predict which careers will feel most natural to you. But even if you have a high aptitude for a job, your performance still depends on how you choose to engage with the work. This is where we look at your attitude. If aptitude is the engine that determines how fast you can go, your attitude is the steering wheel that determines where you actually head. Imagine 2 people facing the same difficult project. One thinks, this is too hard, and gives up, while the other thinks, this will take some work, but I can figure it out. Unlike your core aptitudes, which are fairly stable, these internal reactions are flexible and can be changed with practice. This diagram shows how we measure these reactions. We can use the direct method, which is a simple survey about your feelings, or the indirect method, which involves observing how your behavior changes when you're faced with a specific situation. To see where your own logic stands, Tell us in the comments. If all squares are rectangles and this shape is a square, is it also a rectangle? And what is the MEX number in the sequence 3, 9, 27? Your aptitude sets your starting potential, but how you look at your challenges ultimately decides how much of that potential you reach.